Eboni K. Williams responded to the backlash on social media about her comments that men are not positioned to protect and provide. And then, when asked by Janla Van Zant if she would date a bus driver, she said if he owned the bus. So there's a divide between people and their opinions. Some understand what she was saying. Others are like, why are you shaming hardworking men? Today, I am going to do a quick response to her response and then read to you some of the comments left from people on the video I shared about Ebony K. Williams in responding to what she said about not wanting to date a bus driver, but instead wanting to date the owner of the bus. So let's go right into the video. Now, this is in no way an indictment on who she is as a person or her character. Let me state this, and let me state this clearly. Everybody has the right to their own preferences. Okay? Everybody has a right to their own preferences. But you can have preferences, but you need to understand the end goal. What is it that you actually want? If you want to be in a successful, sustainable marriage, you need to be able to assess whether or not your preferences are setting you up to have that. Because to be perfectly honest with you, and this is coming from somebody who has extensive experience in marriage counseling, that your preferences, many of you, keeping you single. This is the type of tea that nobody wants to drink, men and women alike. For instance, let me just take this off real quick. Men complain about modern women and that there aren't any good women out there when they are searching in the very same places for the women that are dogging them out. And likewise, women are saying there's no good men out there because they are searching in the same pool of men, not giving what they would consider normal men an opportunity to get to know them because of their job status or their financial status. Again, you can have your preferences, but understand this: your preferences might be keeping you single. And it's not a matter of you settling, it's a matter of you prioritizing what your preferences are and identifying if those preferences are just a matter of your life convenience, to keep you convenient in life, to have convenience, or to find somebody who can actually protect and provide. Let's go into her response. And I appreciate her response, but there's some things within it that I am going to address.
Today's sidebar starts with a note of gratitude. I want to thank the culture for making my interview with Dr. Ayanla Van Zant one of the most popular and actively engaged content offerings the Griot has produced. So before I tell you my thoughts, let's replay the clip that had some of y'all deep into your feelings. I do want you to speak, Ayanla, to
So,
how...
let me just, did you hear her what she said right before the video? She wants to play the clip that had you guys deep in your feelings. So you already know what type of energy she's coming from. There isn't a place of humility and the desire to have civil discourse, even if you disagree. She, out the gate, comes in attack mode because she has to defend herself. So, for all of you who are in your feelings, here is the clip that got you guys in your feelings.
Women need to I don't know, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can...
Not position yourselves to be a good woman, to be a good wife, but to have your crowns right. To
create and not build. When some of us...
Create and not build. Now, I wanted to talk about that because I missed this in the last video. How do you create something and not build it? You got to build it. You got to build it. And there's this narrative, and I will share this, and this is going to trigger you guys, some of you ladies especially.
Danger.
The fact that you aren't willing to build with a man says a lot about your character. It shows that you want it built already so you can step in and enjoy a convenient life. But the truth is, anything worth having takes work. Anything worth having needs to be built. When you build it, you have ownership in it, no? So miss me with that whole narrative that you're not here to build a man. No, you are here to build with the man. And this is for you women out there who claim that you're a Proverbs 31 woman, but don't want to build with a man. The Bible says that you are his helpmate, which means that you help him build. And this is why there's a lot of women, and this is objectively speaking, this is not an attack on women, but this is the reason why a lot of women in their 40s are single and upset with men because they didn't give the average man an opportunity in their 20s. And now those men that were in their 20s are in their 40s with this woman, married in a sustainable marriage, and they're amazing providers and protectors of their families and their wives. But they were tricked to believe that you need a man that's already established in your 20s. This is not a red pill talking point. This is not a manosphere talking point. This is common sense. Common sense. You don't want to put in the work to help build a family, build a life together with the man that you chose to marry. You want somebody already established so you can step in and live a convenient, soft life. I'm not speaking specifically to Eboni K. Willams. I'm talking generally to those women who think like modern women today.
Us quite frankly feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Now, let me stop here real quick and before Ayanla speaks. One thing I appreciated about the feminist movement in the in the early days is that they fought to have equality of pay with men. They fought for that and they got it. They got it. And women like Eboni K. Willams and many of the women out there enjoy the benefits of having equal pay with men. They enjoy it. But now that they enjoy the benefit of having equal pay with men, they shame men who either have equal pay or have less pay than them. Now, let me share this with you guys. Newsflash. If you went to college and earned a degree and took student loans out, whether it's federal or private loans, and you make $200,000 a year, you are not worth $200,000 a year. In fact, there's a strong possibility that after you earned your master's degrees, your Juris Doctorate degrees, and your doctorate degrees, the plumber who got a GED and got certifications is worth more than you. The bus driver who went and learned a skill is worth more than you, despite how much you earn. Many people are tricked to believe that their worth exists within the degrees they have and how much money they earn. But if you have more than 1 degree, 2 degrees, higher degrees, you probably have mounting debt that makes you less, or that makes you worth less than those bus drivers that you're ragging on, the police officers, the firefighters, the plumbers, the air conditioning and heating workers, construction workers, because you put your worth in degrees. and mounted up debt so that you can have it. Let's continue. This is not going to be an easy video for many of us because, again, I went and amassed student loan debt so that I can get a degree, so I can be a marriage counselor and be an educator. I did that because my goal was to help people. I wanted to learn a specific skill to help people and to teach people, right? But there are men that would be considered less in status than I am that, honestly speaking, objectively speaking, are worth way more than me. I'm not ragging on them because they're a plumber or a bus driver, right? I don't walk into spaces believing that I'm better than anybody because I have 2 master's degrees. It doesn't make me better. It doesn't make them worth less than I. But in many cases, they're probably worth more. This is me being objective. Let's continue.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
If
a
he
bus
owns the bus, if he owns
No.
it, if he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Now let's address the response to the interview and what some of y'all are calling a backlash. So let me be clear. First, I am a professional disruptor. So backlash is my business. And I will always take it on the chin for the sake of advancing the work, conversation, or movement. So know that I am completely unfazed by the onslaught of nasty comments, wishing me a sad, lonely.
So her response to this doesn't really show that she's unfazed. And truth be told, Eboni K. Willams, it's okay to be fazed by the comments. The facade of strength that you're displaying can be easily seen through. It's okay to be upset about the comments. People said some foul stuff about you that I don't agree with. I don't agree that you are a bad person because you have your preferences. I just believe that your preferences doesn't set you up to be in a sustainable marriage or relationship. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you an evil person. I just don't agree with your preferences, and that's okay. And we can have a disagreement and even have civil discourse about that disagreement. But my thing is, your preferences may not set you up for the desired outcome that you want, and that's to be in a sustainable marriage, if that is your desired outcome. And this is for everyone watching, whether you're male or female.
Bitter existence until my untimely death. Now, that is some weird energy to be wishing onto a black woman, especially one who dedicated her life to the liberation of black folk. But, whatever, I guess, go off. See, I wanted to talk about how do we close the gap between black women who do show up in a so-called masculine posture, those of us that are providing and building and protecting.
Men are doing that. Men are actually doing that.
Due to circumstances that we might feel make us feel that if we don't do it for ourselves, we will have to go without the resources and protections we need to feel safe in this world. But Dr. Iyanla went in a different direction. She asked me a personal question. And y'all know I have been extremely transparent about the fact that my life choices and my chosen lifestyle are far outside of the norm.
So, preferences, priorities. Her priorities right now in her life may not be conducive to her being a wife or finding a husband that's willing to accept her right now with her present priorities as his wife.
So when I said that I would date the bus owner, a lot of y'all heard something different.
No, we heard what you said. Iyanla asked you, would you date a bus driver? You said if he owned the bus. We heard exactly that. What you're about to say is a cleanup of what you said.
Some of you heard the following. Bus drivers are whack. Bus drivers are broke. Oh, and I'm too good for a bus driver. The only thing is, y'all made that part up. See, I said what I said.
If somebody says, would you date a bus driver? And if you said, if he owned the bus, you're communicating. And if you, and Eboni K. Willams, you probably won't watch this, but you are a lawyer, which means that you are a master debater and you can argue your point very well. And if somebody understands what's to say what you said, you would chew them up alive. Chew them up alive. Iyanla asked you a question. Would you date a bus driver? Your facial expression and your response was absolutely clear. It doesn't take somebody who is a master in body language or professional in body language and a master communicator to understand what you were trying to say. You literally said, if he owned the bus, insinuating without a shadow of a doubt, any jury that you argue with would agree that you saying if he owned the bus was claiming that the bus driver was not good enough for you.
But then some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly wages, pensions and benefits. And that's wild because I was never talking about money at all. I was talking about Black
provision and protection. How does a man provide? With money. With money. You said it. And this is not a flattering shot. So let me just change that. You said, Eboni K. Williams, that men are in position to provide or protect. Provide is one of those things that coincides with finances, money, salary. A bus driver would not make enough to provide for your current lifestyle, where your current priorities are. And again, that's okay. That's okay. But you didn't say that. In essence, you were communicating the bus driver is not good enough for you. Exclaiming that without saying your lifestyle is way better than theirs and they can't fit in it.
But some of y'all made it about money.
It was about
ownership,
money.
Black enterprise and entrepreneurship, because really I am talking about Black liberation. And if you read my book, you'll understand why.
Which I will.
So I'm standing 10 toes down on that position. And I don't really care if you're hurt or offended by it. And since some of y'all are already big mad.
Some of us are big mad. Body language and what she's saying is key.
And let me go ahead and make you incensed. So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said.
Now, Iyanla checked her about building with men, building with the bus driver. She didn't say, after Iyanla asked her, would you date a bus driver? She didn't say, I would, and I would build with him so that he would ascend to own the bus company. She didn't say that. She said, if he owned the bus company, meaning that he would already need to be established. I'm not building with nobody, which is your preference. If that's okay, that's okay. If that's your preference, but understand your preferences and your priorities will set you up for the outcome that is going to set you up for. If your desired outcome is to be with somebody and have a mutually reciprocated relationship of love, respect, trust, all that stuff based on positive character, you need to make some changes to your priorities. She didn't respond to that question with, I would initially date him, but if he had aspirations to own the company, I would build with him. She didn't say that. Now she's saying that her response was to communicate that mediocrity is not okay and that we should be striving for greater, which I agree with, but she didn't respond. And maybe the question was like off-putting and she wasn't ready to answer it. But out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if she really did want to say and communicate what she means, that she would rather see the Black men elevate to a place of ownership, that's a positive thing. But she didn't say that. She said, if he owned the bus company. Now, I will say this, and I'll say it after.
But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general
Which you took
as
personally, which is okay.
gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best.
Ad hominems. She just talked about the people who are shaming her in the comments, but then she's shaming people right now.
Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of Black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you or anybody that I love to fall comfortably into the bigotry of low expectations. So I'm going to say one more time. There's absolutely
The bigotry of low expectations.
nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form.
So she's blaming white supremacy for this. White supremacy has nothing to do with what's happening among women believing that a bus driver is not good enough to date. That's not white supremacy. And I can't stand when everything every problem translates to some white supremacist, notion. Like it doesn't. This isn't about white supremacy. In fact, your desire not to date a bus driver could be a subliminal form of white supremacy inside yourself, believing that you're better than somebody who drives a bus or who's earning a medium wage income and is able to survive and even flourish without student debt.
Of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me. And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
Eboni K. Willams shares her response. Now, again, she said some things that I'm not about to I don't believe she's a bad person. I really don't. I think that her response shows that she was offended by the comments, which is rightfully so. But she did not communicate in her response to Iyanla Vanzant that she believes in the elevation of Black people and does not accept mediocrity. Again, she has her opinion and she's perfectly fine with that opinion. I don't think she's a bad person at all. But understand this. I know men who work blue collar jobs who earn slightly under 100K that live amazing lives, travel the country, every month. They got nice homes. They're living peacefully, no stress, no debt, just living life. How do we tell somebody like that they're living in mediocrity? Happiness is the measure of success. And people, not just men, not just women, but people who can't be content in what they have and find joy in what they have will always be chasing after the next thing under the guise of growth. Under the guise of growth and not wanting to be mediocre. Angely Rye had a response about this. I'm going to share her response, and then I'm going to read to you guys the comments left on my video.
It's just your Wi-Fi. So I'm just going to start over again. I'm here to address the confusion that I personally had about the bigotry of low expectations, the mediocre jobs that we're calling, or not we're, but some folks are calling the folks who drive buses and folks who are traditionally service workers. And I think that sometimes, as attorneys, we can forget about where we came from and how important those roles are. And so I'm here because I thought long and hard about what it meant to come from a grandmother who was a nurse, a grandfather who had his own electrician business and made it in the jet, child, be an electrician.
Which is another amazing occupation that doesn't require a college degree. In fact, you can have C's and D's and be an amazing electrician.
My grandmother Granny, who was an inspector for the quality control line at Boeing. My grandfather Gramps, who was a Pullman porter. Shout out to A. Philip Randolph. And all of them were service workers. All of them at some point could have been deemed mediocre. And what I would say to you all as just as a caveat and to just lay this groundwork initially on a micro level, we to fail, and at every turn we have overcome. Whether you're looking at the Black women who continue to formulate and develop businesses in this country only to hit a ceiling of 70.
And she was saying $70,000. She had some Wi-Fi issues.
I don't know what's going on with this connection, but all I'm saying is I'm doing all that I can with the gifts that I know that I have, the potential that I know that I'm walking in, and that does not beget access to a cap table, right? Especially because we know how we look, we know who we are, we're very clear about all of that. So what I would say is, if we are mediocre at all as a people, I'm just speaking very generally here. If we are mediocre at all as a people, the culture, if we're mediocre at all, it is because of the very whack ass circumstances we've been placed in and we've thrived and
Sorry
we've
for the language.
And so what I would say to us is to avoid the Bill Cosby.
Now, she's making a good point here. People of African American descent, right? And people who come into the country, immigrants, we have overcome a lot in order to get to where we are. And if you are a bus driver, you've overcome a lot to receive that job, that salary, that pension. You worked hard. There's nothing mediocre about working hard at what you do. That's just me.
Be rhetoric, like we've seen where that's landed him. We don't have any place for that in our culture. We don't need to pull ourselves up by bootstraps when we, for whatever reason, have not been given the boots. We know what the reason is. So you can't pull yourself up. You can't condition yourself out of mediocrity. You have to be provided a different kind of playing field. And so I would challenge.
I will challenge Angela in this, right? This has been a conversation about Black women who I respect, who I highly respect. But I got to be objective. You have been given boots, more boots than Black men have. You have been given opportunities that Black men have not have. And still Black men tend to flourish. The reason why Black men are not going to college at the same rate as Black women is not because they're not qualified to, not because they're not smart enough to. In fact, they're smart enough not to. They would rather go get a trade instead of spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for a degree to get a job that they may not even work in. So while scholarships are being thrown at Black women, while loans and business loans are being thrown at Black women, boots that you can actually strap, the same thing is not happening for Black men. This is just being objective. It's not happening. If a Black man has a successful business, it's because he built it up without help from anybody else other than his wife, who was willing to build with him. So I think you guys got to miss me with this whole bootstrap thing and you guys not having boots. Angela, my sister, respect, but you guys have been given boots. The problem is the people that gave you the boots charged you interest and they expect for those boots back. They didn't give you laces, but Black men are making their own boots and tying their own laces. But let's continue.
Challenge all of us to focus on equity, to focus on access, to focus on the things that change the conditioning, the current circumstance, the environment. Those are the things we need to focus on. And meanwhile, we need to shout out every person in our family, every person in our community that makes a difference for us, that has made our lives possible. There are folks in our community who were able to buy their first homes, those homes still in their families because they were in these mediocre jobs. Being exceptional, doing the best they could with what they have, and everybody else who's coasting, that's up to them. But we've got to be very careful with our words. So,
shout out to Angela for what she just said, and I think it sounds like she's giving pushback to Eboni K. Willams, a fellow lawyer, a fellow African American woman. Angela understands what it's really about, the importance of valuing people even though they don't make as much as you, or they don't have the status that you have. They don't have the Juris Doctor degree or Esquire behind their names. Shout out to Angela for that.
So what I would tell you all is that we should continue to stay resilient, that we should continue to live and exist in our power, that we should continue to be overcomers and conquerors, and know that there is better for us, and we especially will be better off if we continue to challenge the system and change the game. But in the meantime, we don't need to boo-boo or poo-poo on anybody and where they currently are, where they find themselves. We do not know how they got there. We don't know what else they're trying to do, what else they have going on for themselves. That's just not our role. So I hope that this clears it up for some of us. And this is also a great moment for Black folks. You know why? It's very clear we're not monolithic. We see things different ways. Language triggers us in different ways. We need to be responsible with our words and be very clear about what we're trying to communicate. So what I hope that y'all hear from me today is I stand with the sanitation worker, the bus driver, the school teacher, my auntie who was a librarian before she passed, my uncle who was a painter before he passed, everybody who's made it.
Angela Rye, who respects Eboni K. Williams, who I'm assuming they're both lawyers, both have Juris Doctorate degrees, both practice law, has a very different opinion than she does in regards to how she views service workers, blue collar workers, so forth, bus drivers. And again, back to what I was saying before, because I look at everything from a lens of trying to build and sustain marriages. You can have your preferences, but you need to ask yourself a reflective question. Are your preferences keeping you single? Because this whole I'm not settling thing is not a real thing. If anything, as Eboni K. Williams said, it could be rooted from this white supremacy thing that she claims to hate so much. Not settling for what? A hardworking man? No, I'm not settling for a man that don't make less than me. But truth be told, I don't see many other ethnic groups and the women in those ethnic groups creating videos claiming that they won't date men in their ethnic group that don't make what they make or more. And I get it. Your argument may be, well, they don't have to because the men in those groups make more. Statistically speaking, Black men as a whole still earn more than Black women. The number is decreasing, but they still earn more than Black women. So no other ethnic group is ragging on their men, saying that their men aren't in a position to protect or provide. In fact, they understand that I'm going to marry a good man young. We're going to build a life together. I will be his helpmate, whether you're a Christian or not. They have this mindset because culturally that's how it's been. And by the time homeboy is in his 40s, they're living in a nice suburban home with a fence around it, 5 kids, 2 dogs, a garage in the back, a guest home, a guest house in the Caribbean somewhere, like, because they built that together. This idea of, not building a man. And I'm not saying it's up to you to build a man. No. I will say, if you are desiring to be a wife, your role and his role as a husband is to build together. But I wanted to read to you guys some of the comments in the video that I posted about this a couple of days ago. It's called Men Are Not Positioned to Protect or Provide, Angela Rye School's Eboni K. Williams. This is my video. And I want to read to you guys some of the comments. Nicole XO writes, here's the thing. The reason why provisions are so important to women, and I never said that it's not, and I'm talking about marriage-minded women, not young hoochie mamas trying to find their next lick, is because provisions are what ultimately protects your family, especially in this day. No argument there. A man can work his butt off as his bus driving gig, but if he can't afford to get us out of the hood, are we still not safe? I'm sorry. You have a good man who works his butt off driving a bus. In 10 years, you probably won't be living in the hood. building with instead of building for. This woman may want, Nicole XO may want, no, I'm not going to say her, but some women want the man to already have it built so that she walks into it built. No, we are looking for a decent house that accommodates our family in safe areas with good schools and no food deserts, which I support. A big kitchen is always nice too, which is good too. So yes, I get it. It comes across and insulting and disrespectful when women turn their nose up, yes, at any gainfully employed man, but is he but he isn't looking at the full picture, and neither is Ayanla. Ayanla never said that she would date a bus driver only. She continued to say that she would build with him. Ayanla does get it. She understands the purpose of a woman being in her feminine energy, as these women want to put it. Your like you building with your husband places you in that very same vein, operating in your feminine energy. Side note, why is it always those who have proven to either find themselves in terrible marriages or to be terrible arbiters of marriage themselves that are the first to give their opinions on it publicly? So she's talking about Ayanla and Steve Harvey. However, if my information serves me correctly, Eboni K. Willams has been, I think, in a failed marriage or failed engagement as well. So, and even me, I was divorced once, remarried now. But after my divorce, I went to college, and got my degree in my master's degree in marriage and family counseling, so I could help couples not fall under the same failures that I failed at in my marriage. Relationships are about balance, interests, and values. What would a lawyer have in common with a bus driver? Network, conversation, activities? You're absolutely right. They wouldn't have anything in common. The lawyer will have mounting debt that he has to pay for the rest of his or her life. And he's chilling with a skill, driving a bus, earning a pension, getting health insurance, all that stuff. And in 20 years, he's retired, living his best life, while the lawyer still has to work past their 70s because they have student loans that they haven't paid for yet. But you're absolutely right. They have nothing in common. Nothing at all. At all. A woman wants to be with a man on the same ambition frequency, and that's the problem. That's the problem. A lawyer sacrifice, like, this is the whole thing about competition. I've heard it like this. I heard a woman say that black men can't compete, or they're afraid, they're trying to compete with us. And I'm like, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Men as a whole aren't interested in competing with women. We just won't. Truth be told, it's the women competing with men. Men are more apt to compete with one another, but they're not going to compete with a woman in this ladder and this stature of life. They just won't. We're not built for that. We're not designed to compete with a woman. We are designed to, allow a woman to come alongside us and help us build. But if you're trying to build your own thing, a man's not going to look at you and be like, you know what, let me build something better so I can be better than her and win her. No, go ahead and build your own thing. I'm not trying to chase you and the things that you're building. I'm over here building what I'm building, and I'm going to find somebody that's going to build with me here. And that's okay. That's okay. A lawyer sacrificed time and money, and is still sacrificing money to achieve that goal of that degree, as if a degree is better than a skill. Most degrees that they have, college is a business. They have degrees for almost everything under the sun. And a lot of these degrees that you pay money for, you can't even get a job with. But a skill, that pays the bills. Shout out to Dr. Umar Johnson. What does his network or social circle look like? Looks like probably happy marriages that are content in relationships with people, not trying to get the bag. It's not the same on the same career frequency. No other race of men complain about providing a abundant life. No other race of women complain that men aren't providing an abundant life. Like, they were ready to build with them. I'm talking from the provision of the point of view of witnessing African and Latino men provide abundant lives and even enable their women to stay at homes, which most men want to. The problem is those women who are staying at home were willing to live in a one-bedroom apartment and allowing their husbands to build and then build with their husband the life that they enjoy now in their 5-bedroom, 1.5 acre home, 1,500 square foot or 2,500, 3,000 square foot home sitting on an acre or 2 acres because they built with. That's the difference. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. African men, Latino men, they providing amazing lives for their wives. Their wives were willing to build with their husbands in order for the wife to have that kind of lifestyle. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. No argument there. Would men date a woman who was 300 pounds if she had great personality, treated them like a king, was a woman of integrity? Likely not. Probably not. But they would rather spend time with this woman than a woman who thought she was all that and believed and thought that she deserves more. I'm just saying. Ebony was engaged to a millionaire. What makes anyone think she would lower her standards for someone who doesn't fit her lifestyle? Your standards might be keeping you single. The same way men are allowed to say they don't want baby mamas, then successful women don't want to date down. What does dating down look like? If it's a matter of finances, then you only prove my point about women always competing with men. Men aren't trying to compete with you, which is why they're not trying to earn income to win you. They're trying to earn income to live. And they're going to find somebody that will be willing to live with them, build with that person, and have an amazing income when they grow older. Ayala has been in 3 failed marriages, and she, I don't know what she was continuing to say. Black men are far more concerned with how many women they can sleep with rather than, which is a lie, not all black men, but getting an education and starting a business. The bus driver gets a teacher or waitress, not the attorney. Then who does the attorney get? Who does the attorney get? So every attorney should be dating another attorney. I get it. All right. So I get it. For life to function properly, Kenya Grooves, an attorney must date and marry an attorney. I get it. Because that's what, yeah. Oh, okay. Would you date a fisherman if he owns the fish? I know it doesn't sound good, but it's true for a good number of men. Not all, but far too many. It doesn't matter how the man is broke, rich, or someplace in the middle, it's still the same old outcome. It could be if you're not looking to have a sustainable marriage. If character is not at the forefront of what you're looking for. What you don't talk about is men desiring women that's out of their league. You want women to first off, I don't live by this notion that there's anybody out of anybody's league. That is superficial. That is prideful. That is ego. Is not humbling. It's an ugly position to have in life, to believe that somebody is not in your league. I'm going to say that now, which is probably one of the reasons why we have so many failed marriages, because you haven't committed to the person and you're going to find somebody better that you feel is actually in your league. Stop that. It's nonsense. You want women to step down when it comes to how much money he makes. No, I don't. Just understand that your priorities is not going to help you get married. You'll be single for a long time. And this is not one of those Kevin Samuels talking points. It's just, it is what it is. Men aren't concerned about how much you make. And if you lead with that, ladies, it's probably not going to happen for you. But how many of you would love brown or darker women for real? My wife is a brown chocolate queen. I call my wife a queen, but I ain't calling nobody, a woman a queen. But yeah, a lot of men would. In fact, the majority of black men do. You're looking at it from an entertainment perspective. The reason why you're looking at it from an entertainment perspective is because society, the media, have tricked you to believe that successful men choose light-skinned women. That's not true. Not for the majority of black men. That's not true. So you can miss me with that also. You're looking at basketball players, actors, the few that are out there, and saying, you know what? They all do the same thing. They're all going to look for a light skin or somebody who is white after they become successful. For crying out loud. The number one basketball player in the world, LeBron James, is married to a African-American woman who is brown skin, and they have a happy marriage from what I can tell. But there are some men in entertainment that do go for lighter skinned women. But those men do not speak for black men as a whole. And you look at those men and then you group all black men in that same vein. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. So please stop. Let's not do that anymore. It's like me saying, all black women want a rich man without character because they're all dating. They're all like NBA weekend, all the women, the black women that go to NBA weekend and try to bag them a basketball player. So I say all black women, all they want is a basketball player. It's nonsense. Let's not do that, guys. Let's not. There are plenty of women that you would not take or look or even entertain the thought. If you do, you'd be fantasizing. Yeah, you're appealing to motive. You're wrong. You're wrong. But that's neither here. OMG, who gave this old man a mic? Another insult. Thank you for calling me old. Thank you. All right. Respect the elders. The old were respected for wisdom, but when old men speak this way, our society is in deep trouble. I guess you didn't like what I had to say. Women tend to appreciate pandering, being pandered to. So if you disagree with them or challenge their position in life, you get this kind of response. But thank you for your comment. It keeps the algorithm, the video related, relative to the algorithm. So thank you. Shout out to my boy Jermaine from That Christian Fam channel. Love the live, brother. Couldn't comment while you were live. No problem. Appreciate it. Eboni K is not in her 40s. She's in her 30s, which I stand corrected. And thank you so much, Nadia, for correcting me. I appreciate that. She's 39. She'll be 40 this year. Schools her on what? That black men can compare or compete. Therefore, you must settle. No, first off, men in general aren't looking to compare themselves to you or compete with you. That's the whole point. Most men will find happiness in what they do. Or they'll do what makes them happy. So if they, which is what Ayala was trying to say, in most cases, men will become successful in what makes them happy. What makes them happy. Okay. So no, men aren't trying to compete or compare. We're not trying to live up to your expectations. We will be who we are. You either love us for that or you don't, which is fine. You have your preferences and it's your prerogative. Again, as I've been saying this whole video, just understand and reflect on whether or not your priorities and your preferences are keeping you single. And she didn't say black men. She actually said men. So I looked back over. She wasn't referring to just black men, but I think she was meaning it. She didn't say that. So I'm not going to say that she was referring to only black men because that's not what she said. Here we go. All Van Zandt really did was prove why a lot of career black women would rather stay single or date interracially because they're tired of the BS that comes with dating black. What kind of BS is that? Please be specific. All of Van Zandt's statements were centered around Williams dating black men. I don't know if they specifically said black. Would you date a black bus driver? That's not what she said. And to that degree, there aren't enough successful black men in her career and financial level, so she should have to settle, which is laughable. Again, I don't know her financial situation, but most lawyers that I know went to school on the government's dime or a private bank's dime that they got to pay back with interest. So she could be earning a lot of money, but she's not worth a lot of money because of the majority of that money, or a huge portion of that money, a large percentage of that money, is going back to pay back loans with interest, where the bus driver probably doesn't have mounting debt, student loans, because they learned the craft, they learned the skill, and they're working in the skill that they learn. Again, this here adds to what those people out there claim to be a white supremacist mindset. That's like telling a male model he has to settle for an unattractive woman because his pickings are slim. Actually, there are a lot of models that don't settle, but choose people who may not look as quote unquote attractive as them, because that person provides them peace, security, genuine and unconditional love, and they have great character. You guys are very superficial. It's very superficial. That, my friend, is laughable. The joke is black men will sit online and rant about how we're allowed to have preference, how we're allowed to have preference. Yeah, you can. Liberties, etc. But when black women have preferences and liberties that a lot of black men can't measure up to, they start whining, ranting about their feelings and deflecting, which I agree. There's a lot of men out there who do that. I agree, which I think is whack. All right. I do believe that men, I'm going to share a story with you guys about me. Men need to rise up to become better, but not because they're trying to catch or snatch or bag a woman. Gotta be for themselves. Okay. And deflecting. That's why she's old and single. Typically said by old and single men. Like, come on. This display just proved if career successful black women who are accumulating wealth want someone, which is they're not accumulating debt if they're not paying that debt. The interest is still mounting. Want someone on that level, they're more times than not going to have to date interracially, because if not, they're going to be told to settle. Again, there are plumbers that are worth more than lawyers because of that student debt thing. Those are some of the comments. Now, I'm going to share with you guys a story, okay? Several years ago, like years ago, after my divorce, when I finally said, you know what, let me put myself out there and start dating. Let me see if I could, vet a good woman. I was working, and now my calling is to work with families. I want to work with families, okay? And prior to my divorce, I was a pastor. I worked as an assistant pastor. I went and got my credentials through studies. So I was credentialed and ordained, and I didn't earn a degree, but I was working as an assistant pastor. After my divorce, I was asked to resign, and I resigned, but I had no degree, and no church was going to hire a newly divorced single father who had custody of his 3 sons. No church is going to hire that person as a assistant pastor. So because I wanted to work with families, I took a job working at a Head Start, earning $12.13 an hour while doing photography and videography on the side. And I had the opportunity to get to know a young lady who was an educator who became an assistant principal. My salary fit in her salary 4 times with a remainder. With a remainder. So my salary fit in her salary 4 times with money left over. And a couple of things I thought to myself, right? I did think to myself, if we were to ever get married, I cannot work at Head Start earning $12.13 an hour, because I want to provide for my family. So I went back to school, got a degree in marriage and family counseling, a master's in marriage and family counseling. Then I got a master's in education so that I can be a marriage counselor and be a teacher, still working with families. Although I was motivated by her to step my game up and to earn more money while amassing student loan debt, but I am earning more money, right? I am what people would consider in that top 10% of income earners among men. But I didn't do it to try to compete with her. I did it because I wanted a better skill set to actually serve families in my calling, because that makes me happy. Happiness is the measure of success. I'm happy doing what I'm doing right now, and I'm earning good money, and it's growing every year. The priorities are off, and it's keeping you single. Men will work hard for their family and grind for their family in order to provide and protect. Good men will do whatever it takes. But it's hard for a man to do that for a woman who's unappreciative of what he's able to provide for her. Because trust and believe, he may be able to provide but so much in your 20s. But when in his 30s, he's providing this much. In his 40s, he's providing this much. And when you guys are retired, there's nothing you need to work on, because he got it all. Because you were there to help him build that, to be his helpmate, to be a biblical woman, a biblical wife, and not trying to get a man that you believe match your success level. Because many of you guys aren't even happy in what you do. You did it so that you can earn income, but then that income you're paying back to the government or to the private banks. So guys, Eboni K. Williams is not a villain. She has her own preferences, which she's entitled to. Okay. And although I think she was definitely ragging on the normal workers, the bus driver, and her explanation, I call cap on, it doesn't make her a bad person. That's just her standards. That's her priorities. That's her preferences. But understand this, ladies. If you have those same standards and preferences, ask yourself this. Do those standards put me in a position to first find a good husband, and second, to maintain a good marriage? And if not, you need to reflect and make some changes. And that's that. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Appreciate you. And subscribe. All right? Peace.